Welcome everyone to episode 48 of the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor, and this is a very, very special episode that I've always wanted to do. I've wanted to have this guy on from the beginning. This is a guy I've known for almost 20 years now, and he's, throughout your life you meet people that impact your life in a significant way, and I can definitely say that that is the case with this guy. I want to take you back to around... I want to say like summer or fall of like 1998. I was around 14. I was, most people know me from, being in Orlando and Tampa before that, but I spent most of my formative years, and I mentioned this in the first episode about where I grew up. I grew up in a little town called Chaddsford, Pennsylvania. For a lot of years I went to this private school in Wilmington, Delaware, which was about 30 minutes away. I want to say from about 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, I was at this school called St. Edmund's Academy, and I don't want to get on off like a tangent, like bashing this place, because that's really not what this is about. I'm just here to tell my story. It was an all boys Catholic school, and I don't have anything against private schools or Catholic schools or anything, because I've gone to most of that throughout my high school years. This was a particularly kind of a low period in my life, because I think most kids, especially at that age, are going through tough times. And, for me, having to struggle with just, depression that, it's run in my family, combined with bullying, combined with being, sort of in that environment, it wasn't a really good time in my life. Definitely a lot of bullying, a lot of different things going, and people who know me now that I'm sort of a weird guy anyway. I'm sort of a little socially awkward even now, at 33, but definitely at that point. So when I was in 8th grade, I ended up transferring to another school called St. Patrick's in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, which was just like the next town over from where I lived, and that school's not there anymore. But it was one of those situations where I knew I was in sort of a rough, I knew that I wasn't in a good, environment, to be in. It wasn't really the right place for me. And, people throw around words like toxic masculinity and stuff like that. And I don't necessarily believe in that, by the way. I think that people, no matter if they're male, female, or whatever, can be toxic, and they can not be toxic, and they can be decent people. I just happened to be in a toxic environment at the time, and I did happen to make some friends while I was over there, but that's, I don't want to, like I said, I'm going off on a tangent here. But the point is, I was in this new school, which was closer to where I lived, and I was lucky enough to meet a group of guys who I had befriended, almost instantly. And it wasn't through the school I was in. It was through martial arts, and that was something that I had kind of rediscovered when I was in 7th grade. And by the time I was in 8th grade, I was like really doing that a lot after school. And so I had found like this local karate school. It was called Kirk's Martial Arts. It was run by a guy named Ernie Kirk. He was actually a school teacher at the school I went to, and he'd kind of found me there, and we kind of got talking, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you come and train with us for a little bit? I know you have a little bit of experience. Why don't you come by?" And so I had gone there, and I had managed to meet 3 guys who were they were a few grades ahead of me, but I just clicked with them right away, and it had been so long at that point since I felt like I was really like part of a group, or part of a good like social group, and just felt accepted by other people. Like I felt like that, those bonds of friendship instantly. And one of those guys is my guest today, and I can say this guy has shaped me in just so many ways in terms of and we've managed to stay friends all these years, and in a way, this guy and the other guys I hung out with really kind of saved my life in a big way. He introduced me to so many different types of music, and he took me to like some of my first like live live local band concerts, and we had kind of bonded over music and martial arts and so many other things, and Yeah, so and I know kind of getting off on a long rant here, but I just wanted to let you know, like, what this guy's all about and what kind of person this guy is. And I'm proud to say, even 20 years later, even though we haven't lived near each other in a long, long time, I can still consider this guy one of my best friends. And just yeah, I mean, there's really not much more I can say about that. But he's a really talented musician in his own right. He's a great husband, great father. And he's been kind of asking me about getting into the world of podcasting right now. And he recently had something on Instagram. His Instagram is like Real Deal Vinyl Review, and I'll post links to that in the description at the end. Of course, we'll go over that. But he's he has a real love for like classic albums and vinyl, and so I'm curious. I have him on here because mainly I'm trying to figure out what exactly he's doing with this new venture of his, and I figure he'll explain better than anyone else. So like I said, it's a long-winded intro, and I apologize, and I know it's a lot to get through, but that I definitely wanted to set the table because this guy definitely deserves high praise and making an introduction. So please welcome to the Phoenix Report, my good friend Joey Passante.
Wow, that was probably the most epic introduction I've ever received.
Thank you, man. I know I was kind of stumbling on my words. I didn't have anything written down, but I mean it, man. I love you. You know that.
I love you too, man. Like that was epic. And you know what? I just wish there was like Nick Cage right there being like, high praise.
That's high praise.
Like,
Andy Samberg style.
Exactly. It would have to be Andy Samberg style.
Well, like I said, man, this has been a long time coming, and I've been doing this podcast thing for about 2 years now, and I just figured the time, like you told me about this vinyl review thing that you're getting together, and you would ask me a few questions about podcasting, and and it sounded like you wanted to get into that world. So I figured that this would be the perfect excuse to have you on and just to chat for a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's this is an awesome idea. This is the first time I've ever been on a podcast or even, attempted at this. So I'm really happy that you invited me. This is really cool. So I'm trying to get the ins and outs of trying to understand like how to either do. I'm on such an ADHD tangent when it comes to doing a podcast, because one side I'm like, should I do a video or should I do just audio,
or like a vlog, or like a vlog?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
because I've had like other because I watch a lot of YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have like one of those like Roku devices.
Yeah.
That you stream in. I stream YouTube because it's pretty cool, and a lot of the stuff I watch, which is interesting, is like unboxing of stuff.
Yeah,
I know it's so weird, but like I like it. So like, and I was like, how could I do that with like a vinyl? Do something with that with like a vinyl record, kind of show of the vinyl record, go see what's in it. Because there's like even some of these old vinyls, there's some cool stuff, like some posters. I guess there's a couple ones I've gotten some like epic posters from, and I guess one was what was it? It was George Harrison. All Things Must Pass.
Yeah.
There's this humongous poster. It's like you can't even tell it's George Harrison. Look, it's almost completely black. And it's just like you could barely see his face. But I was like, that's pretty cool. And it would be cool to share it with people. Not that, and I think there's somewhat of an audience for it as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, in the last, I want to say like 5 or 10 years, like vinyl has been like a real big collector's item, especially even now. I mean, even now after all like the digital revolution and all that stuff, it's like a buddy of mine worked at like a record store in St. Petersburg, Florida, and they had a big vinyl collection. I mean, I don't necessarily listen to a lot of vinyl myself, but like I do have like my mom has given me a lot of like vinyls that she had when she was young, and it's kind of cool going through that. And not that I really have much of a vinyl collection myself, but I've always been curious about that sort of thing. I know you've always collected really cool stuff like that. Has a lot of it that been like stuff that you've had growing up, or has it been like, have you gotten anything from your parents, or like, how did a lot of that come about?
I honestly think it's a combination of everything, because ever since I think I was probably like 2 or 3, I got my first vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Disney vinyl.
Oh yeah.
It was Donald Duck going quackers.
Yeah.
And I still have it. I actually
cool.
put it in a plastic sleeve. It's just kind of the sentimental value, and ever since then, I've just been drawn to vinyl. And probably, I've always been interested in it, but then I kind of went off on a time where I really didn't really care. Maybe like 5th or 6th grade, yeah. I kind of was like into getting my CDs and getting that. But then I was actually at my grandparents' house, mm-hmm. and they had one of those really big, it looks like a furniture piece, mm-hmm. and it folded up, and there was a record player, and there was a Beatles album. There's actually, they had this, I'm pretty sure it was like not a legit compilation vinyl set.
Right, maybe like unauthorized kind of an import or something.
Exactly, something that definitely was not licensed.
Yeah.
It was probably through like Time Warner Music or something.
Yeah.
And
like the K-Tel Golden Oldies kind of deal, or?
Yeah, literally it didn't have any sleeves or anything. It was just the record, and I have it. Yeah, it's about four vinyls, or 4 vinyl, and I put it on. And first, I can't remember which first Beatles song I listened to. I think it was either, I go back and forth. It was either "She Loves You" mm-hmm. or "Strawberry Fields Forever," and then like I think from there, it kind of just changed my life. I think musically and just the way I viewed vinyl, how I viewed music.
Was that like your first exposure to the Beatles?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And that was when like the whole anthology series came.
Yes. It's funny you say that. That was like right around the time, like around 95, like when I kind of discovered, who the Beatles were. Like, I think like when you're younger, you just assume like, oh, that's that old band that my parents listened to. But like, I was like, I mean, you and I are around the same age. Like, I was around 11 when in 95 when that all happened. Yeah. And I think it was Christmas of that year. My aunt gave me like the cassette of like the first anthology collection, and just
that's awesome.
That was like. I know for me that was like one of the first times where it's like I listened and I imagined like, man, what if I was in a band? Like, what if I was like playing music like that? Like, would I want? So that like kind of got the ball rolling a little bit for me. So I mean, just I obviously we both feel the same way about the Beatles. There's not much more you can say about that.
I mean, I pretty much think like in my head, if you went into my head. There must have been something like a hammer smashing glass, like that. It just blew my mind, like when I heard it, and then that's what just totally changed my view, like on music and just how, because I was getting into guitar then, mm-hmm. and starting to play music, so I think it was a culmination of everything together, but it was something about vinyl that did it. So. Just kind of, because I went off a tangent a little bit.
No, that's fine. Hey, that's what the show's all about, man.
but kind of going back to your question, I think I've accumulated it over the years from my parents, from going to Goodwill. I used to get a lot of good stuff at Goodwill for really cheap. I actually bought my whole system, speakers, turntable, stereo, everything for Goodwill. I got it for like under $20.
Yeah.
But the best thing was when I went to Goodwill, this stuff was like brand new. Mm-hmm. Like the turntable was still in the box.
Yeah.
And with the plastic on it.
That's cool.
Like,
the funny.
And then.
Okay. No, I was going to say the funny thing about like sometimes like finding some of that used stuff, and that maybe it might be at a cheap price, but who knows, you might find something from like the original pressing of something. Like I don't know how like how detailed you are about that, but like sometimes if you're able to find these like collector's items and like the stuff that's like out of print, that can be like a really cool thing. It's like even if it's like torn and faded a little bit, just having that I think is kind of a cool.
Oh, absolutely. And when it comes to like Beatles albums,
Yeah.
there's just so many reissues, so many different versions of the vinyl that comes out.
Oh yeah, I mean, and plus like the business was so different back then. Like they would have different releases in the U.S. as opposed to like albums in the U.K. because that's just how.
Yeah, because you had like in the U.S. you had pretty much like Capitol Records.
Yeah.
And in Britain you had Parlophone.
Yes.
So it was, yeah, and then you had all these different other releases, and even going above the Beatles, going past the Beatles, you'd have a European release. You would have, like, I have some really interesting ones. I think I have like a Misfits, some issue from Germany that I found on eBay.
Wow.
And I bought like up near around where I live, up in Glen Mills.
Mm-hmm.
There's a record store called Jupiter Records, and they had the debut album of Slipknot.
Oh wow.
But it was a two vinyl picture LP.
Yeah.
And that was some kind of European release too. So
Sure.
it's cool trying to find out. With the Beatles, it's kind of hard. You have to kind of really look to really find out, which pressing it is, because there's just so many between even the 60s and the 70s.
Oh, for sure. And like so many big hits of theirs like weren't even like album tracks. Like they would release so many singles. And like a lot of that stuff didn't appear as like a compilation until like the Past Master stuff from like '88.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to think. They did do, I don't know how many times they did this, but they had a couple times they had 2 A-sides.
Yeah.
I think it was, God, I can't remember. I know the first one was Hello Goodbye.
Yeah.
And I can't remember I have it on
Yeah.
I have it on 45. But it was something, but I remember because I think John Lennon was pretty pissed off because he was basically pissed off that Paul wanted to he's like, this song Hello Goodbye, this is ridiculous.
Right. He wasn't a fan of that one.
He was not. I can't remember. Maybe, I was going to say maybe Strawberry Fields, but probably not. But there's just so many cool different versions of vinyls. And, just even when I didn't have a record player growing up, I would still buy vinyl. I would still buy it because
that makes a lot of sense because I still buy CDs, and it's not necessarily the same as vinyl, but it's like for me that works because yes, it's digital. I could just put it on my computer or my phone or whatever, but it's like, yeah, I mean, I still like having a physical product. Because you can still open it and check out the liner notes,
exactly.
And sometimes, having something that you can hold in your hand, and and actually to be able to go through a booklet and just check out all the stuff. I mean, there's something. It feels a little more. It feels like you have more ownership of it.
Do you have a turntable or no?
I don't.
You need to get one.
I know. I agree. I could definitely find one, but I do still have a few vinyl LPs like my mom had this old Black Sabbath live.
Ooh.
Yeah. The funny thing is my mom went through different phases when she was younger. But it's she didn't find out until later on that Ozzy Osbourne was the guy from Black Sabbath. So it's there's a little bit of disconnect there, but she would tell me this story about how in '73 she jumped on stage when the Rolling Stones were playing the Spectrum back in the day or something. I don't know.
That's awesome.
So,
yeah, my mom didn't really have too much. She had Rick Springfield, Sean Cassidy,
okay,
Dirty Dancing, and Jane Fonda's Workout.
Hey,
so that was
all right.
So I'd take your Bob's Black Sabbath any
But
day.
yeah, she would also have like
those.
guys like she would have stuff like Neil Young and like the Love and Spoonful, like John Sebastian and stuff like that, and yeah, a lot of cool stuff there. And
I mean, like my dad was really into. He was a big Southern rock kind of guy. Loved Leonard Skinner, Ollie Hatchet, and Marshall Tucker Band. Because he would play a vine. He would play. I can't remember if it was Greatest Hits of Marshall Tucker or whatever, but the song was called "Fire on the Mountains."
Mm-hmm.
But he would always play it, and we'd always listen to it, and you know. So I definitely have a lot of his vinyl, like a lot of his like Leonard Skinner, and I've gotten more.
You've grown to appreciate it a little bit more.
Yeah, I've grown to appreciate it a little bit more, and like, and just get my own collection. That's really appreciating it, you know. So it's cool, but just even through high school, I would go you talked about us going to shows.
Yeah.
And I would go. Some of the bands would press some records, and any time I would go.
Yeah.
And I go buy it. I think one that I bought, I actually sold it a while back, was do you remember the band Brand New?
No, it doesn't ring a bell. Were they like a local band, or were they like? No, they were. Okay,
yeah,
they were big.
Yeah, they're pretty big, but they came to Kennett.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. All right.
For a show back when they were younger, but
because I remember you taking me to shows that like there was like an American Legion.
Yeah,
all that,
that's where
like right
American
downtown.
Legion.
It was just like a little nothing stage, but like you would see a bunch of kids there, and yeah, we always had good times there.
Oh my God, those were the best. Those were the best times. There was two parts to the American Legion. You had the downstairs, which was basically like where the old men would drink.
All
the vets would drink, and they'd run it out to us to have shows, and we'd pack it in. But then if you got like the really big bands, you know, that had some notoriety, then you'd play the upstairs of the American Legion.
Yeah. Well, I think it made sense because we were like, 14, 15. It's like, they probably wouldn't have these shows in bars and clubs and stuff because most of those you have to be like over 18 at least. So, and it's like, I don't even know. I mean, again, I didn't really grow up here in Florida, or at least I wasn't that young. Like, I don't even know if like there are even that many places like that for kids to go and doing their thing nowadays. But like certainly when we were that age, we definitely had a few of those places to go, which was cool.
Yeah, and we had like when everything was do it yourself back then. A lot of my friends, they actually set up the shows a lot. They're the ones actually would get the bands, have them come down, and then they play. But that Brand New show was like the big to do. And I think that was I was either a junior or a senior. And but I got this vinyl. They were selling old copies of the band that they were in before, that some of the guys were in. And I found out like later on that this was a rarity to have, like in between in the pop punk community, whatever you want to call Brand New. But I actually sold that vinyl. It was just cool to know that like a lot of people really liked them.
Definitely. And again, I wasn't there for that show, but I know that like some of the shows that you took me to were leaned a little more like alternative, and I guess sort of the pop punk, or I don't even remember a lot of it, but
it would have been punk or ska.
Probably, yeah. And even though I was always like a classic rock and metal guy, I kind of went in that direction. But like even that at that time, I was like, yo, that's close enough. I'll go and hang out, and it's all I mean, it's all rock and roll at the end of the day, so it's all part of it. So I mean. Definitely, you exposed me to sort of an area of that stuff that I might not have found out about otherwise.
Well, vice versa. And I would say the same to you as well, because you did that to me. And I don't know if you remember, but you made me. When writable CDs came out, you made me a mixed CD.
That's right. Yeah. I used to do those all the time, and just like it's like, yo, check this out. And again, this was before even before file sharing was like a thing.
Yeah.
Nowadays you just send YouTube links, but I'd be like, bro, check out these tunes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think exactly what was on them. I remember there's Motley Crue, Kickstart My Heart, maybe AC/DC, some classic rock stuff.
And they were probably like album tracks, maybe.
Led Zeppelin, definitely. I know Led Zeppelin was on there.
Because like you and I really like came up listening to WMMR, and like,
yeah,
I remember just like, I mean, you know, Pierre Robert was like my hero, you know, at 13 and everything. And actually, you know, a couple years ago when I moved back up for a couple months, you know, that got me listening to like Preston and Steve again, and now I podcast them like every day. So I'm like, still connected to WMMR after all these years. So that's like a little slice of home that I listen to every day.
Just FYI, Preston and Steve were talking the other day, and they mentioned Steven.
Yeah, they did. I heard about that, about him like running like. Yeah, Steve, our buddy Steven, you know, Steven was was one of the guys in our circle of friends back in the day, and still is. But like he's like a martial arts trainer. He owns his own Brazilian jiu-jitsu school, and I'd like to have him on one of these days. By the way, he's a character. But like he'll go out and like run in like the snow, like with no shirt on. Like he's an incredible athlete.
Yeah, I forget the guy, but there's a guy that actually climbed Mount Everest without like a shirt on or something like that. Yeah, that's crazy. And Steven kind of trains to that guy's regiment.
That doesn't surprise me, man.
They do jiu-jitsu outside. Like there's pictures of them doing jiu-jitsu outside in the snow. And then what they mentioned on Preston and Steve is that he goes out when it snows, he goes out in bare feet, just shorts on, no shirt, just starts running.
Just to like get acclimated to that sort of thing, and
that's
hardcore.
Just condition himself,
yeah.
Which is funny, but just that was decided with MMR. So yeah, Preston and Steve, going back with them to Y100, which was Philly as well at that time, which was really cool. Like listening to the alternative. Yeah. But now I've the funny thing is I am always now more leaning, besides MMR, but I'm always leaning more towards like WMGK, which is the classic rock station.
Right.
You know, in Philly.
Yeah, these are all Philly stations, by the way. Any of my Florida friends listening, you might not know what we're talking about, but just bear with us for a second.
Yeah, bear with us. I mean, this is good stuff.
Exactly.
This is good stuff. But even just classic rock stations in general, I'm lately more or less like I'll be turning it on in the car and I'll be like, all right, I'll listen to this. I'm down. And then I'll turn on the alternative station. And I'm like, what the hell is this music? And now I'm getting so old.
Yeah.
Like to think of like that. But I guess
and that's the funny thing. You know, I've told a lot of my friends down here about WMMR and how I think it's probably, I mean, one of, if not the longest running, you know, active rock radio stations in the country. It's about celebrating its 50th year.
Exactly.
That they've been consistently a rock station that plays both new and classic rock, and they have a slogan called "Everything That Rocks," and that, I think, that really made a big impact on my life, especially as a musician, because it made me appreciate all, you know, that, you know, rock and roll is one of the most diverse genres of music that people don't realize. Everyone wants to put everything in little boxes and be like, oh, well, you sound like this, so you can't do that. And and that's always something I've tried to fight against, and tried to kind of do my own thing and just try to create a blend of everything, and not necessarily be, you know, like confined to one particular sound, if that makes sense.
Well, do you remember that that documentary that came out, you know, on VH1, The History of Metal?
Yeah,
Did you ever watch that?
That was just a couple years ago. Yeah, it was heavy,
and
the
the guy
history of
that did it, like, he went through genres and subgenres of metal, which was like pretty crazy. And it's like, yeah, you don't want to like just pigeonhole yourself into one kind of one thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I understand why those things exist, like the subgenres, because you want to have like a description of what the sound is, but at the same time, it's like that can also be very restricting, I think.
This is not Norwegian death metal. This is Swedish death metal.
Right. This is black metal. Get it right.
This is black metal. This is grind.
Yeah, exactly. Grindcore and don't get me started on all the cores out there. It's crazy.
That's so true.
But we talked about musicianship. Give us a little bit of history of you as a musician, because I know as long as I've known you, you've played in bands on and off. I remember like Portraits of Life was one project you were in for a while. Like what bands have you played in over the years?
Usually, like starting off kind of history.
So I know you've done a lot of acoustic stuff on your own as well.
And that's pretty much the biggest gist. I mean, in high school, I played some punk ska bands or punk bands, but basically it mostly consisted of like me and a couple friends, just a 3-piece playing some punk music. Then we play like a show or something here and there. But
shout out to Brent, Andrew, Marcus, all those guys.
Yeah, I've been hanging out with Marcus lately, which has been pretty cool and pretty nice and refreshing.
Right.
Because he's got, I'll tell you later. He's got this awesome bass.
Oh, no doubt.
78 Gibson. I forget what it's called, but it's a Gibson and it's awesome.
Shout out to Marcus. He's out there like hanging out with comedians and all this other stuff, so he's got a lot going on.
Oh yeah, he's playing in bands, doing all that. I think he's sponsored by Orange.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
Yeah, dude's making
But going back to
let's talk about you for a little bit.
Me, always music has always been around me as long as I could remember. My dad played guitar, my grandfather sang, in church and whatnot. And I remember when I was probably about like 4, my parents bought me like this little like Harmony little acoustic guitar. I wish I knew what the heck happened to it, but I never started actually playing until I was probably like in like 5th grade. Fifth grade is when I like got serious about it. So my dad was like, "Okay, play on this basically this crappy acoustic guitar, and if you really like it, if you stick with it, then I'll get you a guitar, an electric." So I think probably 5th grade, probably, I think it was Christmas or my birthday. So it was like 95, 96. He gave me an awesome Fender Strat. Now that was kind of, and even like before that, before I got the guitar, I'd try other instruments. I tried violin. I just didn't like it. I didn't stick with it. Clarinet, because I really wanted to play drums.
Yeah.
But my dad didn't want to pay for the rental for the drums, so he's like, "We have a clarinet or we have a violin. You can do either one of those." So that didn't really stick. So but I've been playing guitar since then, and I've been in a couple bands, but mostly like I've just really always stuck to the acoustic side of things. And I guess my biggest influence, was in high school with like Dashboard Confessional, and because Dashboard really opened up my eyes to what I could do with an acoustic guitar, whether it be like open tunings, detuning a guitar down a little bit, and really broadened my horizon to what I could do musically.
So wasn't Dashboard essentially just one guy?
Yes, it was Chris Carrabba.
Yeah. I remember that. And I mean, obviously that was the name of the project, and he had live guys on stage and stuff. But like it was mainly his deal, kind of like what Trent Reznor and 9 Inch Nails, kind of that deal.
Well, no, the first 2 albums was just him. it was strictly just acoustic.
Oh, okay.
And then after that, he started re-releasing some of the songs that he originally had on the first 2 albums, and then put a band to it. So it was good, but I always like I always like the sole guitar player kind of thing. It's like golf. It's like you have no one else to blame but yourself.
Yeah.
If if stuff goes wrong, you can't blame a drummer, you can't blame a bass player or a singer for anything else. It's kind of, you're on your own. And I think probably in high school, I think I was a little bit of a prick a little bit sometimes being in bands. You can relate, not to being a prick, but being like having a vision of what you want something to sound like in a band, or and maybe that's probably why I ended up doing acoustic stuff.
Well, plus we grew up in a small town, man. There wasn't a lot of guys to choose from.
Yeah. It was pretty much like Marcus, my buddy Marcus, and my other buddy Andrew Bainey.
Yeah.
Because he was a drummer and had a drum set.
Right? And it's like, what were we going to do? Like drive to Westchester at 16?
Oh my God. When we were younger, and probably,
By the way, not a lot of people know that, I'm not to interrupt you, not a lot of people know this about like the town we grew up in. Like the next town over was Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is where like Bam Margera and his brother are from, which like I think that's our big claim to fame, that we're I think he was the guy that kind of put that area on the map.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, Westchester.
Yeah.
What were we talking about again?
No, you were talking about like going over and like
Oh yeah, I call Andrew. Andrew's my buddy Andrew Bainey.
Mm-hmm.
He's been one of my best friends too, from probably like middle school too.
Oh, and Andrew and I, we lived together, so we live near each other, I should say, like in the same neighborhood.
Well, you did live together.
Well, no, for a little bit. When I moved back in, I ended up being his roommate for a bit, but
me too.
But like he and I knew each other when we were little boys, because just from just from school and stuff, and because like his house was pretty close to mine, like almost like the next neighborhood over. Yeah,
I think I basically call Andrew basically like, and I know this is the worst like probably analogy, but like when we're together, it's like our Lennon McCartney kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I feel comfortable playing music, and we're on the same page.
Right.
Except the only thing that we disagree on, he likes the Stones better than the Beatles.
What?
He actually can't stand the Beatles.
What? Come on.
Yeah, he hates the Beatles. He hates Ringo.
Oh, that's crazy. Crazy talk.
So we get into that a lot. But besides that, me and him musically get along, and like probably in like middle school we'd play music with some different guys. And we used to have this one kid we used to hang out with. His name was Kurt, and he had all this like old recording equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would go over to his house and we'd record stuff, and we'd record music. But it's always just been like usually like me and Andrew playing music, because I was guitar, he was drums, and we're like, we'll get a bass player eventually or do something. But even like in Kennett, there was this Baptist church, and Kurt, like I don't know what the heck he did, but I don't know if he was like played music in it or not. But like we'd always end up recording like in the at the church, which was so interesting.
It must have had good acoustics, maybe.
We were the worst. We couldn't even get a song together. Like, we had a name. Our name was called Sucks to Be You.
Nice. Oh, that's the best name ever.
And like, we couldn't even like finish a song. We did like, I think we did like a Lemonhead song one time.
Okay.
And then we just like make up some other crappy music, and it was hilarious. But as we just mess around most of the time because we were like in middle school.
Right. Yeah, well, that's what you're supposed to do at that age, though.
That's true.
Just get it.
I mean, there's
in
a lot
room
of other
and suck until you're good. That's how it works.
I mean, there was a lot. We could have been doing a lot worse things. So
exactly.
So that really wasn't that bad. But yeah, just playing out. I'd always do like open mics, and then I did the little thing in high school called Portraits of Life, and I still technically do. I still have a Facebook account for Portraits of Life because I kind of revived it a few years ago with one of my buddies from high school. He came back to Kennett, and we kind of started playing some music together, and we actually recorded a couple songs, and it was a lot of fun. But things happen where he was in another band, so kind of one of those things.
It was kind of tough to balance everything,
Yeah, didn't want to split the time, so I don't blame him. It's fine, but but now Kennett has this new venue. It's called The Flash.
I've heard of it. I think I've heard you talk about it before. I mean, I've never been. I mean, usually whenever I'm visiting, I'm usually visiting family and friends. I mean, we still hang out, obviously, whenever I come up, but no, I don't think I've ever been to The Flash.
It's a cool little venue. Like, I've played a few open mics there, and there's been some bands. Who's the guy? He's a drummer. Carmine
Appice? Or Appice?
Yeah. He's coming to Kennett. He's playing with some band.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That guy's a legend. I mean, he was in, like, Vanilla Fudge and drummed for Rod Stewart for many years.
Get all these, like, pretty cool, little, I'm just trying to think of Jeffrey Gaines has been there a couple times. Okay. But it's a cool little venue. So they do like open mics, and I've played that a few times. So it's always fun. But now it's just been being a father. That's not that it's been put on the back burner, but I've had some other stuff to deal with.
I hear you on that. I hear you on that. I just joined that club recently, so I know how that goes.
Does she like music?
So far, one time, I had my acoustic out, I was working on some stuff, and she was in, like, the walker or something, and she was just kind of, like, turn around, just, like, get wide-eyed, just, like, staring at it and just, like, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that?
Yeah. Mine likes to strum on the string, so it's pretty cool. So it'll be time to get her.
Even though, my wife isn't necessarily into my music, but when she was younger, she played in the marching band in high school, and her mom is a piano teacher. So it's like, man, like between like my side of the family and hers, like chances are like my daughter's gonna play something, or sing or do something. I don't know what it's gonna be, but
that's what I'm crossing my fingers for. Like, we actually named her Cecilia, which is kind of, if you want to really get into it, like, it's actually like the patron saint of music.
Oh, okay.
Of musicians.
Nice.
So it's kind of one of the things where it's like we kind of were like, it fits her. I think it really fits her.
Right on.
So, yeah. But it's been pretty cool.
That's cool, man. So, but that's the thing, and I've run into that, like people ask me a lot, and about like being in bands and playing music and stuff, and especially now that like I'm married and have a kid, it's weird. I get one of two reactions, like be like, oh, are you still playing and still doing the band thing, and then it's like, oh yeah, oh, you're still doing the band thing.
Yeah.
And I usually have a hard time like kind of like reading like how they mean it, but it's just like I'm always in the back of my mind. It's like, okay, like are they asking me because they think it's a good idea, or are they like and again,
still doing it,
right? Like it's some kind of phase that I was supposed to grow out of after high school or something. Like,
yeah,
and it's like, you really don't know me that well, do you?
It's just, it's something that's always will be with you.
Yeah, I mean, once it goes in your blood, it never really goes away.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Like it, no matter what you do, you're going to be whether it's you're playing out or you're just playing at home, it's still you still have that itch and urge to play. So
Yeah. And it was something that I always did because I genuinely loved. It certainly didn't make me popular or or anything like that, or rich. So it's like it's definitely not because of that. And I'm sure you can relate.
Oh, I'm sure you're doing all right. You got a pretty good following of fans.
Yeah,
You got a great band. So
thank you, man. I mean, well, now I'm finally in just like a band of guys, and it's been the same 5 guys for the last like three of the 4 years. So it's like now it's finally coming together and really going pretty well. But I'm definitely glad that you're still out there playing and doing stuff, and now especially with this with this vinyl review thing. Are you thinking about more of a podcast, or well, like you said, you weren't sure if it's going to be like audio or like a vlog?
Yeah, I keep going back and forth with it because I think the best thing to do would be to start off with an audio. And I've kind of been doing like little stuff on like Instagram, like video wise with like unboxing stuff, or just just kind of like usually my posts are a post of the vinyl, so I'll give the pictures, I'll give the I'll take I think the limit's like 10 pictures on Instagram, but I'll take as many as I can so you can see the vinyl, whether it's a color vinyl, it's regular vinyl, or what's in it, what kind of cool stuff is with it, But I think like it's probably a good idea to just kind of start off with just kind of like an audio podcast. And we're on Skype now, so I didn't know you could just. How do you do it with the audio?
Well, I definitely have a program that I use that records Skype calls in like an MP3 or either an MP3 or WAV format. I'm not sure, and then I use another program called Audacity, which is free to download. But like a lot of it was like my buddy Corey kind of showing me how to like edit and convert and convert to I mean, I could definitely probably do like a split screen or something, or even like next time we meet up in person.
Yeah.
It's relatively easy to do, and like I said, I wish I knew more about like recording and sound engineering and stuff. I mean, there are guys who are really good at that. I barely know anything about that, but if I could figure it out, it's anyone can do it.
Because I thought about using like GarageBand, depending on if I'm just doing it myself, or because it would be easier to do it on GarageBand if I'm just doing it myself and then posting it later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Audacity, even like if I'm just recording a piece myself, you can just record it through there and just plug your mic in and go it from there, and just that it's really easy to use.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm just trying. I think I have so many ideas, but I'm just trying to. It's that starting point.
Yeah.
To get.
Absolutely. No, I know what you mean, and because like I got inspired to do it because I just started listening to a lot of podcasts, like almost even more than like I would listen to music in the car, which is like wow, it's like man, I've officially become my dad. I'm listening to talk radio and not the music in the car. But like
I think the biggest one for me is I watch on YouTube what's the Joe Rogan podcast or video podcast, and I'm like, well, what do I need? I need like my mic set up, a mixer. I need this. I got So I don't really have anything right now. I have like a condenser mic that I have a mixer that I plug into the computer. So I mean, it's like I have something there.
Sure.
It's just a matter of me testing it out, and actually the first step is already been done because the computer that I'm using now, like we don't even use our computers really anymore.
Right.
I just totally factory reset this laptop so I could focus on focus on doing like recording stuff, like podcast things, just so I have everything together and like I don't have any memory issues.
Yeah.
So it was just getting it together, and that was kind of the first step because I had to save everything that was on it. But Because we don't even barely use the computer anymore because you have your phone right there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I definitely run it through my laptop as well. That usually is easy, especially if I'm making Skype calls. It's a little more reliable and a little better audio than the phone. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like once you get started, it's been so great for me, and I enjoy doing it. It's just another way for me to kind of like express myself, and it's like, or at least to like kind of at least reconnect with my friends and to have good conversations with people. And it's like, even like what we're doing now, like, I mean, you and I see each other all the time, but it's like, you never really just like get to sit back and just reflect on all this stuff and have these long conversations. It's almost kind of a lost art, especially when everything's so instant now with social media. It's a really great way to express yourself and, and just to talk about whatever you feel like. And, hopefully, and I remember when I first started it, Christina, was asking me, it was like, well, I mean, do you think anyone's going to listen to that? And not that she was trying to be negative, but she was just like kind of concerned that I was like setting myself up for expectations. And I just remember saying to him like, look, I don't know if anyone's going to listen to this. I don't know if anyone's going to be interested in it, but it's something I want to do, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
And from there, I've gotten to like make friends with bands, like guys in bands who I'm a fan of through this, like guys from bands that I enjoy that I wouldn't have gotten to meet otherwise. I mean, not that I'm getting like super famous guests, but like I've gotten a few guys who are like in some like pretty famous bands right now doing this. And not that I was like kind of not that was like the goal to like, oh, I need to get this person, but it's like if I'm able to get people who have done some stuff in the business, like that's a cool thing. And
yeah.
And just stuff like that multiplies, and it's like you never know like where the benefits are going to come from. Even if it's reviewing old albums, you're sparking up conversation and connecting with people that way. And almost as much as like making a new making a new album or something like that, people are looking for something to connect with. And it's been a good tool for me personally. It's been great for my band, and it's been great for just all around and just maintaining relationships with people.
It's almost it's kind of like it's very therapeutic as
Absolutely.
well.
I mean, people used to keep journals before all this stuff, and this is just like the natural extension of that. And now it's become like a viable form of media, and now it's huge. I mean,
absolutely.
Because I mean, people say, oh well, everyone has their own podcast. Anyone can do it. I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, that's the beauty of it. Anyone can do it. So, I mean, yeah, you'll get some that are not as good as others, but it's like, I remember like hearing Kevin Smith talk about it, and he would just be encouraging people. It's like, go out there and make a thing and put something, because you never know what could happen.
Yeah, and it's like, even if you just have 10 people who listen, do it to those 10 people.
Exactly.
That's what's so important. Like, you don't have these high expectations. Like, I need a million subscribers right now.
Yeah.
Like, because that goes to like the whole instant gratification kind of thing. And that's where another guy I listen to, if you ever heard of him, Gary V.
No, I'm not familiar.
Check him out. He's kind of like a motivational speaker, but he pretty much tells you like it is. Like, he doesn't hold back.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I really like about him. And he's like, you got to do what you love. Find out what you want to do. Don't focus on the things you suck at.
Sure.
People tell you to just keep working at being a better person. No, double down on what you're good at and what you love and what you're passionate about.
Absolutely. And I mean, because there is so much negativity in the world out there. I mean, to be able to do something, and whether it's expressing an opinion you have on something, or talking about something you like, or something you don't like, it's good to get that stuff out there. And the beauty of it is, I mean, it's on demand audio. So like I remember my mom was asking me about the podcast. She's like, well, it's a little bit long, this one you're doing. Like, she's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, that's the beauty of it. You can listen to it and then come back to it later if you want.
Exactly.
And skip ahead if you want to. You don't have to listen to everything.
No, absolutely. And that's kind of the beauty of it too. That's where, once again, our instant gratification, our instant answers, everything that we want, is at our fingertips. And yeah, if you don't want to hear something, just fast forward it to the next
Exactly.
the next segment or whatever. But as long as you have, I feel like you have to have, as long as you have good content and you're passionate about what you're doing, people will come and people will listen.
I think so.
I think my biggest thing, I think kind of what I want to focus on is if I do have guests on the podcast, it's kind of like I either want to talk about like certain albums, just focus on a single album each episode and kind of give the history, talk about it, kind of almost like a behind the music kind of vibe.
Yeah. I love
about
that.
What was going on then, because I just did like a little post on my Instagram for Fleetwood Mac's Rumors.
Yeah.
And I did not have enough space to write how crazy the making of that album was.
Oh my gosh, that band. I mean, talk about like internal drama.
Mess.
They were all dating each other and everything else.
They're all sleeping with each other,
right? Breaking
up with each other. Too many drugs.
Yeah.
So like everything meshed together, but yet it produced an amazing classic album.
Absolutely.
Like the stars aligning. So something, going into something like that, talking about the recording process, talking about the history of it, and then kind of even just talking to the guests themselves about why do they like vinyl? Like what kind of experiences have they had? Kind of like what you've kind of asked me throughout this podcast of why'd you get into vinyl? Like, what's your favorite vinyl?
Yeah.
Why? Stuff like that to get kind of their experience, because I feel like with a vinyl, everything is an experience. Whether it's sitting down on the couch, looking at, the liner notes, looking at the artwork, and even going to the record store, because it's an adventure in itself.
Sure.
It's like kind of like a scavenger hunt,
Yeah.
It's kind of like a treasure hunt to find what you're looking for, and it's just such a cool experience. And, luckily around me there's a good amount. I actually go out to Lancaster a lot.
Yeah.
Home of the Amish and a lot of record
That's
stores.
Right. Go figure.
Yeah, go figure. But some of my favorite record stores are out there, and it's really cool. Because now, like, if you go online, and even some of these stores, there's this mall, which is not close to us, but it's one of the big malls that people go to. It's called the King of Prussia Mall.
Mm-hmm.
And someone opened up like a record store. And they are selling vinyls for so much money.
That's cool.
And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like with this, because I feel like I've turned into a snob, and I've become very, not as in snob in a way. Let me rephrase that. I've been spoiled,
right?
Because I go to Goodwill, I go to these other places. When I told you when I got my whole arsenal of my turntable and everything, I got what is it? I got Ozzy Osbourne, Diary of the Madman, and Michael Jackson's Off the Wall for like $1 a piece.
Wow.
Like, but now you had to go to these record stores because it's in such high demand.
Yeah.
You
were ahead. You were ahead of the curve. So you lucked out on that deal.
I tend to do that.
There
I tend to go in and out of fashion.
Yes.
I just say usually it'll eventually come back.
There you go.
So
I like it.
It's just the whole experience of vinyl is what I love, and just like the whole aspect of it. And it's just I've always been drawn to it. Almost like Moana.
Yeah.
It calls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
a lot of people I know are like, like some guys I know are big like audiophiles, and they go to vinyl a lot because of like the warm, rich sound. Is that something that like kind of drew you to that format as well, or?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely lose something. I feel like when you have strictly digital, when you're strictly in a digital format,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you have that nice analog sound, you know, it definitely is a different experience. But I just don't know. Even with CDs, it always just, I've just always brought back. Maybe because it was a big, you know, like this big disc, this rubber disc,
Yeah.
you know. But I'm really glad that it's been making such a resurgence,
Mm-hmm.
especially, you know, I think one of the biggest people to really fight for it and really be like outspoken about it has been Jack
Oh
White,
yeah, he's
who actually has his own. He actually has his own company in Detroit that presses albums, that presses vinyl.
oh yeah, that
For
dude's like the
it's
king of vinyl.
and it's actually probably one of the biggest manufacturers of vinyl. Just side note with Jack White, he was in a band called the Upholsters, and he was an upholster back in Detroit.
Interesting.
So when
This
he
is
would
pre-White Stripes, I'm assuming.
yes, oh yes. But when he would, so him and his band, the Upholsters, I'm assuming it was his coworkers. When they were upholstering a couch or chair, they would hide their vinyl inside.
What?
So people in Detroit have started to find these vinyls.
Just in these buildings randomly.
No, like inside the couch. It would be inside the couch or inside the chair, like when they reupholstered it.
That's hilarious.
Like they would hide it. Now they've been coming to light, which is kind of funny. But
that's great.
But the coolest thing is like it. I think I was watching one of the guys from MythBusters, and he had some kind of show online. But he went to Jack White's record label. Yeah, not label, but what is it?
Third Man?
Yeah, something like that. And you can go there and you can record. You can record on one of these really old. It almost looks like a
just these old like analog mixers and
telephone box.
Yeah,
it looks like a telephone box, and it was like originally said, like 5 cents that you can record, like and it would press this recording on this. It was almost like a flimsy like plastic, like that you could do, and like you could still do that there, or you could record there and do like a live recording. So being like basically like a one take thing where like they're like you're set up on a stage and they're like, all right, we're recording, go for it. And like you can do that and then they can press the album for you. Like from start to finish.
That's wild. It's funny how these old like almost antiquated pieces of technology kind of come back, because I guess people are looking for something a little more tangible now, and not that I'm down on modern technology, but I think people are looking for something where they have a sense of ownership. When you have something that you can hold in your hand, it's a different feeling than streaming. Than streaming something you can find online, which, I mean, look, having that accessibility is great, but I mean, there's something to be said for that. I feel like even when you're able to stream stuff, even though you access more music, it definitely feels a little bit more disposable in a weird way.
Yeah, I know. I absolutely agree with you. And I think people somewhat are getting kind of not sick of like just the digital kind of thing, but I know that people want more. I feel like now, and since there's been a resurgence in vinyl, I really like you're seeing the album artwork come back. You're seeing all these cool things that like probably from like the mid '90s, but you're still gonna get decent stuff like from listening to CDs or Cassettes are coming back.
Yeah, man, the cassette thing I can't quite figure out. I mean, look, I liked having tapes back in the day, and they were definitely useful for a lot of things. But just now in this day and age, with everything we have now, I don't see what's the upside of going back to that format. But you know what? I mean, hey, people still collect them, so I mean, can't really knock them for it.
Yeah, and I can't knock that because I like I like the form of vinyl. So I mean, but it's just I think people want more now, and it's like, especially I think the millennials now of even though I guess I'm these kids, but I think they maybe their parents grew up having just having the vinyl, and and they kind of want to kind of relive that kind of time where you're just sitting there listening, having the album sleeve, watching it rotate. It's just a whole experience, and that's why I keep kind of reiterating a lot, because it really is, and there's just so much that goes into it. But I'm glad to see that it has gotten a resurgence, and now, I mean, it's definitely I can't remember the statistic of how much it's actually gone up, but it's cool. So I still commend you for, even if you're buying CDs, because you're still at least still like taking that time out to.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I mean, just for me, I do enjoy that format. I don't, buy as many CDs as I used to, when I was younger, obviously. But yeah, no, I think you do have that versatility, and I haven't really gotten on board with the vinyl thing yet. I mean, I definitely understand, the appeal of it. I mean, for me, like, I can't imagine, putting it in my car or something. But I mean, if you're able to invest time and just kind of sit down and take in an album, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's hard to do nowadays with all the distractions. But I guess people find a way, man.
Yeah, and the funny thing is too, like with most, a lot of newer vinyls now, they'll give you the digital download as well.
Yeah, they do. That's a very good point. Very good point. That definitely helps in terms of how you can use it.
You should see some of those. You should see some of those beams where people bring this hipsters bring um, their portable record players out, which is ludicrous. But it just reminded me of like skipping. I remember having the Sony Walkman, but no, not the Walkman, the Discman.
The Discman, yeah,
but didn't have. Yeah, because it didn't have that like skip resistance.
Right.
Thing. So I had to like have it on a table.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. You couldn't walk around with that thing, and like you had to be very careful, or else it would immediately skip and just wouldn't work at all. But I mean, look, that was all we had. That first generation Discman, that was a big deal back then. And I mean, look, I mean, yeah, no, you think that's bad? I can't imagine going around with vinyl. I mean, you think CDs are bad for skipping? I'm just saying.
Yeah. So I'm just happy. I'm really, cause I really have gone back to like really think about like what am I passionate about? I'm passionate about music. I'm passionate about vinyl. So why not combine it? Even if it's just for my own self gratification. If people want to listen to it, then that's fine. But because even on Instagram, there's so many different people that have vinyl, and that will post different vinyl, but you just gotta have good content, and just even if you're, I guess that guy Gary V, he said basically when it comes to Instagram followers, screw it, like don't worry about how many followers you're getting, like concentrate on the likes you're getting, concentrate on your content, concentrate on giving a better product than some of the other people that are posting things. So.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Just focus on doing something you love. I can't wait to be a part of this thing. I can't wait till it comes out.
You will be the first guest.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait.
You could be like my Ed McMahon.
Awesome. You are correct, sir. Yes.
You can be my reoccurring guest.
I love it. I can't wait.
I do have one question I wanted to ask you. I wanted to get your opinion. What's your opinion on the Gene Simmons vault?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, you know me, I'm a huge Kiss fan. I think it's a pretty cool idea. For those of you listening who don't know, Gene Simmons from Kiss, he is releasing this huge box set of unreleased songs and demos from, even before he was in Kiss, dating back to like the mid '60s when he was a kid. Just a lot of
that he has never released. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's between a lot of songs and his big booklet of artwork. It's going to be in this, basically he's only making I think 2,000 of these, and they're going to be in these like giant road cases almost.
It's literally a safe.
Yeah, this thing is huge.
It's legit a safe.
The thing is, there are like different pricing levels, because in addition to the box set is also a meet and greet appearance. To the point where I don't think Gene is touring with Kiss this year. I don't think Kiss is going on the road, because Gene is flying all over the world to hand deliver these things to people who buy it. So it's a very, as you expect, it's a very expensive limited edition thing, but it's one of those things. If you have a couple $1,000s to fork over for, I think like it starts at 2,000 for like the regular meet and greet package, and I think for like $50,000, like he'll come to your house and like host a party for like 25 people and to play like a private meet and greet and everything. And look, I mean, I don't fault him for doing it. I mean, it's probably not something that I'm gonna shell out the money for, because I don't have that kind of money. But I mean, if you have the means and if you're a Kiss fan, like, why not? Like, that's a cool thing to do.
But for a lesser amount, you could sit with them in a recording studio and listen to the tracks and critique. Yeah, and critique the songs, which I think is actually like cooler.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I'm sure that the songs on the box set are good. I mean, sometimes these unreleased box sets, with anyone, is hit or miss, because it's like you think like, well, is there a reason that they didn't get released? Like, how good are they really? But I mean, it's one of those things. If you have the means, if you can afford it, I mean, that's a hell of an experience to get like one-on-one, like FaceTime, to actually talk to the man and pick his brain. He's a guy, I would love to have just sort of an open, honest conversation with. I know that Gene can be a polarizing guy. I know a lot of people love him, a lot of people hate him. But say what you will about the man, he definitely no shortage of confidence. I mean, he I look up to him in a lot of ways. I mean, he really gives it and really is relentless as far as going after what he wants, and I definitely admire that. I admire how hard he works and how much he likes to give back to people. Like I said, I think people kind of criticize him as being greedy, because he's that confident alpha male business type where he goes after it. A lot of times I joke that he's sort of like the Donald Trump of rock and roll, in that he's very polarizing, very definitely has that attitude, has a weird head of hair, and but people either love him or hate him for that. But I mean, I've heard all the bravado and all the things that he says in a million different interviews. I've also heard a genuine side of him and inside of his personality. I think a lot of times he'll put up a front like he's this aloof billionaire, but I think underneath it all is a guy who is genuinely a fan of music and of performing. And see, that's the Gene Simmons that I would like to talk to, not so much the caricature that some people know him as, and some people think that's all he is.
He has made his own American dream. you know, and you can't fault him for that, and just really going out there and really just hustling for for Kiss, and
Absolutely. I mean, what he's done even with branding and merchandising alone is incredible. That's inspired so many bands, not even just rock bands, to do that and to make a lot of money from that. I think it's a brilliant move, and I love the visuals, obviously, with Kiss and their music. So it's it's a win-win for me. That being said, I don't always agree with everything he says. For example, there was this one interview that he did in this one magazine. I think he was actually being interviewed by his son, Nick. And he, and for years, this is nothing new, but for years he's sort of lamented the state of the music industry and very much against, downloading and everything, which, I mean, not that he doesn't have a point, but he came out and said that, that rock is finally dead. And that was heartbreaking to me. That was really hard to hear, especially coming from him. That's like that's like Santa Claus coming and telling you that Christmas is a lie and that it's all canceled. It just it really hurt me to hear him say that.
I think that pissed Corey Taylor off.
Yeah, no, it pissed a lot of people off. It definitely pissed me off. But even a lot of other people in the business definitely kind of shared my feelings about that, about hearing him, of all people, say
they're
that.
Like, Old Man Simmons is at it again.
So, I think the most upsetting thing to me was, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, oh, well, I mean, is he right? Is that... is rock music just going to go the way of like jazz and blues where, people still like it, but like really not a lot of new stuff is coming out from it. So I don't understand necessarily how the music business works and what's going to happen to it now. I mean, it's, or if there even is still a music business in this day and age, with the record industry kind of going belly up. I don't know what's going to happen with it. I don't really understand the business behind it. What I do know is that as long as there are new bands coming out and connecting with people, and as long as the genre keeps growing and innovating and finding ways to stay relevant, and again, there's no right or wrong answer to that, I think, but as long as I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the classic artists that are out there. Nobody has more of an appreciation for rock history than me, but we can't rely on the old guard necessarily to dictate how it's going to go. There needs to be new bands coming up and new bands that have the platforms to succeed and to reach the masses and to connect with people. And I think as long as, if there are ways that new rock bands can find a way to do that, I feel like we don't really have a ton of platforms right now because, mainstream media has pretty much all but given up on this genre. And I think that's a sad state of affairs because I think there is still a lot to offer. And there are a lot of talented people out there. And I hope that things change for the better in the future. So, we'll have to see.
That's awesome. No, that's good. Yeah, no, you're right. I wanted to get your take on it, get your thoughts on.
Of course,
the whole
man.
Thing. I have a guy that I work with. He's our IT director, and he is a beyond huge Kiss fan.
Oh yeah.
So we always talk Kiss like all the time. Like,
nice.
Yeah, it's just funny. So, but it's cool. And I actually gave one of the IT workers is a big Kiss fan.
Oh, yeah?
And when I was cleaning out my man cave, quote unquote, I had a poster from the Kiss tour that my wife and I went to see. I think it was like 2010.
Okay.
So I gave it to him. He actually put it in his cubicle.
Nice.
So now every time I walk by, I see it now, and it's always a good conversation starter, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things I really look forward to, to your show when you get it going, is that, music connects with so many people in so many different ways. It could be a particular song or album that is it's like a snapshot in people's lives. I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to getting on your show and just talking about, classic albums or whatever topic you want to talk about. I'm all in.
If you had, I know this is putting you on the spot, but if you had one that you would talk about, what would you, or what album?
Oh man, I mean there's so many. That's tough to choose.
Has had one of the biggest impacts on you,
man.
Personally,
I mean, just there's so many. There have been so many over the years. It's hard to choose.
I know
one.
I know that's a hard.
It really is.
It could be something. It could be something, recent, or something that's.
I'll tell you what album I find myself going back to a lot. And this was one of two albums that this band put out. I would a lot of times I go back and forth on which one I like, but I would probably say Hysteria by Def Leppard.
Yes. And I do have that one on vinyl too.
That those two albums by that band, I mean, that was them at the peak of their success. And they were still really young at the time. Like, I mean, just Mutt Lange was essentially like to them what George Martin was to the Beatles, and that he just took these working class kids from Sheffield in the UK and just molded them into this just really sophisticated band. And he was able to take the talents that were already there, and he wasn't controlling it. He was just sort of helping them get to where they needed to be. And that album, Hysteria in particular, I think is the type of album that it's easy, it's very listenable from each track, from top to bottom. Even like some of the B-sides that didn't even make the original album release are still like really solid, catchy songs. And I mean, just thinking about all the strife that they went through at that time, and how that album almost didn't get made because of the tragic accident with Rick Allen, their drummer, and how he lost his arm, and that still didn't stop them. I mean, it's incredible. And I mean, even dealing with all the issues like Steve Clark's alcoholism, which unfortunately he would lose that battle in 1991, but even back then in 87 he was still struggling, and that was an issue with the band. So it's all that band had been through, and still to churn out an album like that is incredible. And that's, I think, to this day, it's their highest it's their most successful album, just behind Pyromania. And I mean, even with all the backstory, I mean, the songs are just so catchy. I mean, Pour Some Sugar on Me alone. I mean, come on, like that's one of the few types of hard rock songs that you could hear both at a strip club or at a wedding reception, or it's just one of those songs that people still respond to after all this time.
Something you could have at a wedding, and a song that a stripper will dance to.
Exactly. I mean, what more do you want?
It's fun. It's fun for everyone, all ages.
It's fun for the whole family. I completely agree.
Do you remember when that Rocky? It wasn't a documentary, but it was on VH1 where they had actors portraying Def Leppard.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the behind the music, but yeah, there was a movie, Hysteria, the Def Leppard story. I've actually got it on DVD. It's pretty good.
No, I remember that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of stuff happened, during their career, and especially around that time when Hysteria was made. But all right, so now you've asked me, so I gotta turn that question around on you. If you're stuck on a desert island, what is your go-to album? What's what would you say is the album that you find yourself going back to a lot? What's what is the album for you at this point?
Oh man, See, that is a good question. Oh my God. There's literally so many, but I'm trying to I mean, I have like such an eclectic kind of. I could go from the Beatles to death metal, in a second.
Right. Well, I mean, what's something you're listening to right now?
I actually don't have vinyl, but for this, I am a huge Wham fan.
Really?
Oh my god, I love.
You know what? I mean, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. George Michael was an amazing singer.
Oh, he was amazing. He's such an amazing singer. Like,
I mean, it's really a shame that he never recorded a rock album or that he wasn't into that, because he would have been so good at it. I remember when he did the Freddie Mercury tribute and he sang "Somebody to Love" with Queen and just rocked it.
Like, there's just something that always gets me is But I mean, there's just so many different albums. But I guess the one that I always kind of go to, I'm probably one of the Beatles, any one of the Beatles albums.
Mm-hmm.
Sgt. Pepper's probably a big one for me.
Yeah, good choice.
I mean, obviously it's a master. It is, and there's just so many different albums because I like literally play like oh no, okay, here's what I actually do have vinyl for.
Okay.
I'm a huge Supertramp fan.
Oh, okay.
Like I love Supertramp.
Give a little bit of my love for you. Gotcha.
Like Breakfast in America.
All right.
Oh, that's a great album. That another one I always go to is Berlin.
Okay. Was that?
Have you ever heard of Berlin?
Was that "Take My Breath Away"? Wasn't that their song from Top Gun?
They did do that, but they had another song called "The Metro."
Okay.
Which, if you've never heard this, System of a Down covers it.
Really?
I think it was on like the Dracula 2000 or
nice
movie. But that's probably one of my favorite songs.
Very interesting. Dracula 2000. Yeah. I don't remember that movie, but that soundtrack had a lot of cool stuff on it.
There's just so many. Another one you probably wouldn't think of me is I have Lady Gaga's first album, The Fame.
Okay.
And probably that I love that album, and it just sounds awesome with vinyl. Yeah, we just saw her not that long ago.
Oh yeah?
We've seen her twice actually, my wife, and she just puts on an amazing show because she sings her heart out. She doesn't lip sync.
Oh yeah.
She's a talented musician that knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
When it comes to.
No doubt. I would definitely be interested in seeing one of her shows. I mean, not that I listen to her stuff, but I mean, I'm sure that's a really lot of fun to see.
Oh, absolutely. But so those are some of my probably people don't usually know from me. I listen to because they'll probably be like, you usually listen to punk or metal or some other stuff like that. But I have some of this.
I mean, I've always known you to be eclectic.
I know.
You really
was another one. My daughter, I was like, pick out a record, we'll play it. 2 days in a row, she's picked out Steve Winwood.
Nice.
Take me to higher love. Which also reminds me of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There was an episode.
Oh, really? Oh, I gotta see that. I love it. It's Always Sunny.
But it's cool. I just got to get everything in order. But I think I'm getting there with the first steps of wanting to do this. But I will definitely tell you now that you will be the first guest when I get it.
That's so awesome, man. I can't wait. I mean, man, I feel like you and I could talk for like 5 hours about this stuff.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I'm not going to subject our listeners to any more of that, though. This has been great, man. I'm so glad that you're here talking with me. I mean, this is so much fun. Now, as far as social media and ways for people to reach out to you, at least until the show is on, is Instagram the best way to do it, or I mean, do you do you have Twitter, Facebook, or anything like that? I mean, what's the best way for people to kind of follow you and to figure out what's going on, at least until you get your podcast up and running?
Right now, it's mostly Instagram. It's Real Deal Vinyl Review. Real underscore. Yeah, yeah. And you can post that, and you can put that link at the end. But that's kind of what I'm doing right now until I thought about doing a YouTube account, stuff like that. I mean, you can do the same thing. I actually set up an email address as well. It's the same thing, Real Deal Vinyl Review at gmail.com. Just send something up if people want to talk vinyl or
maybe even throw in some requests.
Yeah, exactly. So I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully I wasn't too terrible for my first time.
Oh man, no way. You're a natural at this. Really, I mean, you're doing such a great job describing all these things, and and you really sound great. And when we're talking about this, and it's so much fun for me to have you on here and to talk to you about all this stuff.
Oh, I am so glad that you invited me on here, and that I'm here. And like I said, that intro that those kind words that you said to me about me were, I can't thank you enough. I really do appreciate it.
Well, hey man, not for nothing. I meant every word, and I mean, look, I know you and I had similar experiences growing up. Just stuff like this is what really makes us come together. And look at us now, man. We're in our 30s. We're both husbands and dads, and who would have thought all those years ago we'd still be getting together and talking about this sort of thing?
If you wouldn't have thought about that, like in 8th grade,
No, definitely not. But here we are, man, and still we're still doing what we love, and I cannot wait to hear this show. This has been so much fun, dude. Thank you so much for coming on. I love you. This is great, man. Thank you.
Cheers, man. I love you too.
Thanks once again to my buddy Joe Passante on Instagram at real_deal_vinyl_review. Check out his stuff there. I'm sure he'll be building content in the months to come. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if he's going to do a podcast or a vlog, or if I were him, I would think about doing maybe a little bit of a combo of both. Maybe having a podcast that deals specifically with like album reviews and that sort of thing, just talking about like the albums themselves, and then maybe having videos where he's literally unboxing some of these vinyls that he gets. So I think there's definitely a happy medium that he can reach there. So I mean, I'm definitely happy to be a part of it if he'll have me, and he said he wants me on the first show, so I will definitely let you guys know when that happens, because I'm really looking forward to that and just talking classic albums with him. He's a great guy. He's a good friend of mine for a long time, and we both just really enjoy talking about music and just getting together. Such a treat for me to have one of my best friends on the show, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. As far as upcoming events, the next appearance from my band Vertebraker will be on Saturday, March 3rd at the Shady Oaks Lounge in Palm Bay, Florida. We're really looking forward to that show. We haven't played out for a while. Unfortunately, we will only be doing that as a 4-piece. Our guitar player, Ryan Cowell, will not be able to make it, unfortunately. He has a prior commitment with his other band, Lydia Can't Breathe. They booked a bunch of shows, a few months ago, and it kind of got mixed up. So unfortunately, Ryan won't be there, but there'll still be the 4 of us. Myself, Rod, Greg, and Jarrett will be there, so we'll try to entertain you anyways. We will be there along with Red Calling from Tampa, Crowfly from Miami, and Gold, Frankincense, and Myrrh, the band that I just had on the previous episode 47, right before this one. I had a really great talk with those girls. Go back and check them out. Crowfly and Red Calling are guys and girls I've known for a long time. They're both really great bands. It should be a really great night. So beyond that, we don't have too many other shows booked at the moment, but just keep going on our events page on our Facebook and all our social media, because you never know. It's always something coming up with Vertebraker. Even if you don't hear from us for a little while, we're always working on something. So definitely keep posted on that. And that is it for this episode of the Phoenix Report. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at jackxconnor. Like me on Facebook at facebook.com/jackconnormusic. Feel free to check out my band, Vertebraker, who I just talked about, at facebook.com/vertebrakerband. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure you email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com or tweet me with the hashtag Phoenix Report. If you're listening to this on YouTube or iTunes, make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, and go back and listen to all the other episodes. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this one. This has been the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.